There was a moment, not so long ago, when he found himself on the floor. It wasn't a dramatic collapse, not something worthy of a story or a scene in a film. It was a quiet giving way. A slow descent from the edge of the bed to the cool, unforgiving hardwood. The dust motes danced in the sliver of light cutting through the blinds, and he watched them, wondering how anything could be so carefree when the world felt like it was closing in. His breath was a shallow thing, a faint mist on the window of his own despair. He didn't know how he had gotten there, to this specific point of breaking. It was a culmination of 1,000 small failures, a symphony of disappointments played in a minor key only he could hear. The job that wasn't right, the relationship that had frayed into silence, the future that once shone so brightly, now seeming like a distant, foggy shore. He felt the weight of it all, a physical pressure on his chest, as if the entire sky had decided to rest upon him, just for a while, just to see if he could bear it. He wasn't sure he could. The thought crossed his mind, a dark, slick thing, that perhaps this was it, the moment where the map ends and there is no more path to follow. He stared at the ceiling, at the tiny hairline crack that ran from one corner to the other, and he saw his own reflection in it, fractured, incomplete. He wondered if maybe, this time, he wouldn't find his way back, but he always did. He didn't know it then, lying on that floor. But the history of his life was written in these quiet resurrections. There was the time he got lost in a foreign city. No phone, no map, no language to ask for help. The panic was a cold hand around his throat. He walked for hours, his feet aching, his mind screaming that he was forever lost. But eventually he saw a familiar landmark, a cafe he had passed days before, and the relief was so profound, it brought tears to his eyes. He found his way. It wasn't a heroic journey. It was a slow, plodding, stubborn refusal to sit down on the curb and give up. He found his way by putting one foot in front of the other, even when every step felt wrong. It was the same with the heartbreak that had hollowed him out years prior. He thought the pain would be a permanent tenant in his chest, a ghost that would whisper to him in the dead of night. For months he moved through life like a phantom, going through the motions, smiling when required, but feeling nothing but the vast, echoing emptiness inside. He didn't heal perfectly. He carried scars. He sometimes still heard the echo of that ghost. But he healed. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, like moss growing over a fallen log, life began to fill the hollow spaces. A new friendship, a book that moved him, a sunrise that actually felt warm on his skin. The pieces, scattered and sharp, began to find their way back to each other. Not in their original configuration, but in a new pattern, one that was stronger for having been broken. This is what we forget in the thick of it, in the foggy middle where the beginning is a forgotten memory, and the end is an unimaginable dream. We forget that even when we are utterly lost, we are still in motion. The heart continues its relentless beat. The lungs draw breath. The body, with its ancient, stubborn wisdom, carries on. The mind might be a storm of confusion. The spirit might feel shattered, but the machine of survival is still humming. It is a low, persistent vibration beneath the noise of the pain. It is the part of you that gets up to make a cup of tea, even when the world has lost all its color. It is the part that forces you to take a shower, to wash the sorrow from your skin. It is the part that makes you pick up the phone and call a friend, even when your voice is a ragged, broken thing. This is not nothing. This is everything. This is the stitching. It is not a grand, sweeping gesture. It is the quiet, patient work of hands in the dark, feeling for the edges of the pieces, trying to remember what the whole picture was supposed to look like. Sometimes the thread is coarse and it hurts to pull it through. Sometimes the needle slips and you prick your finger, and a fresh wave of pain reminds you of the fragility of it all. But the hands keep working. They always keep working. He thought of it as a kind of archaeology of the self. There are layers to a person, strata of experience and memory. The happy times are the topsoil, rich and warm. But beneath that lies the clay of disappointment, the bedrock of grief, the fossilized remains of dreams that never saw the light. When you are in pain, it feels like you have been buried alive in those deeper, darker layers. The air is thick and hard to breathe. The light is a distant memory, but you are not a passive specimen waiting to be discovered. You are the archaeologist with the soft brush and the careful hands. You are the one gently, patiently, brushing away the dirt, uncovering the artifacts of your own strength. You find a shard of pottery, a moment you laughed when you thought you never would again. You uncover a tool, a lesson learned from a past failure that now makes sense. It is slow, tedious work. It requires immense patience. There are days you uncover nothing but more dirt, and the despair threatens to swallow you whole. But you do not stop digging, because you know in some deep, primal part of yourself that there is a history here worth recovering, a story of resilience that is written in your very bones. The world loves a story of instant transformation, the lightning bolt moment, the divine intervention, the sudden epiphany that changes everything in a flash. But that is not how most people survive. Survival is a much quieter, more mundane miracle. It is the slow drip of water that eventually wears away stone. It is the seed that has been buried in the cold, dark earth, and through the long winter, it does nothing but wait. It doesn't know if the sun will ever return. It doesn't know if it has the strength to push through the heavy soil. It simply waits, and in that waiting, it gathers its resources. It draws moisture from the earth. It stores energy from its own core. And then, when the time is right, it begins to push. It is not a violent act. It is a persistent, gentle pressure. The stem seeks the light not because it is brave, but because it is its nature to seek the light. It is the same with the human spirit. That quiet strength that wakes up inside you when no one else is around. It is not a superpower. It is your nature. It is the most fundamental part of you, the core programming that says, grow. Seek the light. Even when you are buried. Especially when you are buried. He remembered a time he was hiking, and the trail disappeared. One moment he was on a clear path. The next he was standing in a thicket of undergrowth. The trees closing in around him. The map was useless. The sun was starting to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple that would have been beautiful under any other circumstance. Panic, that old familiar foe, began to rise in his throat. His heart hammered against his ribs. His mind raced through scenarios, each more terrifying than the last. This was it. He was lost. But then, a strange calm settled over him. It was as if a deeper, older part of his brain took over. The part that belonged to his ancestors. The ones who navigated by the stars and read the stories in the moss on the trees. He stopped. He took a deep breath. He looked around, not for the path, but for the lay of the land. He noticed the way the water ran in a small gully, knowing it would eventually lead to a larger stream. He saw a particular cluster of rocks he remembered passing hours before. He didn't find the path again. He made a new one. He walked slowly, deliberately, sometimes backtracking, sometimes pushing through thick brush. It was hard, exhausting work. His clothes were torn, his skin was scratched, but he kept moving. And eventually, he broke through the tree line and saw the parking lot in the distance. The relief was not euphoric. It was a deep, weary gratitude. He had refused to stop walking. That was the only magic involved. This is the truth we so often overlook. We think we need a map. We think we need a guide. A set of instructions. A guarantee that the path we are on is the right one. But survival isn't about knowing the way. It is about refusing to stop walking. It is about trusting that your feet will find the ground, even when you can't see it. It is about believing that the next step, however small, however uncertain, is a victory in itself. The journey through the dark forest of our own doubts and fears is not a straight line. It is a meandering, confusing, often circular route. You will pass the same tree of anxiety multiple times. You will cross the same river of regret. You will think you are going in circles, and maybe you are. But with each pass, you are wearing a new path. You are learning the terrain. You are becoming familiar with the shadows. And one day, you will realize that the forest is not so dark anymore, that you have, without even noticing, grown accustomed to the lack of light. And then, you will see a break in the canopy. A single beam of sunlight will hit the forest floor, and you will know that you are not lost anymore. You are just in a different part of the woods. He thought about patience, how it is the most misunderstood of virtues. We think of patience as waiting passively for a bus, but true patience is an active, ferocious state. It is the patience of the spider spinning its web, strand by delicate strand, knowing that a strong wind could destroy it all in an instant. It does not spin the web out of hope. It spins it out of necessity. It is its nature to build, to create, to try again. The spider does not curse the wind. It simply begins again. This is the patience required for rebirth. It is not a gentle waiting. It is a stubborn, relentless act of creation in the face of certain destruction. You are the spider. Your life is the web. The winds of circumstance will blow, and they will tear your careful work to shreds, and you will feel the devastation. You will mourn the loss of the beautiful, intricate pattern you had woven, but then you will begin again. You will find a new anchor point. You will spin the first strand. It will feel futile. It will feel like the most insignificant, pathetic act in the world. But it is not. It is the beginning of everything. Each new strand is a declaration. It is a whisper into the void that says, I am still here. I am still building. And what of the pain? The pain is the fire that forges the steel. It is an awful, brutal truth, but a truth nonetheless. We would not seek the light if we had never known the dark. We would not appreciate the warmth if we had never been cold. The pain is the teacher, however harsh. It strips away the non-essential. It burns away the pretenses, the false identities, the fragile constructs we build to protect ourselves. When you are in the heart of the fire, it feels like annihilation. And in a way, it is. It is the annihilation of the person you thought you were, the person who needed everything to be perfect, the person who believed they were in control, the person who thought they were immune to certain kinds of suffering. That person does not survive the fire. They are reduced to ashes. But from those ashes, something new can rise, something simpler, stronger, more real. It is a phoenix, but not the mythical bird of legend. It is a quieter, more humble creature. It is a self that knows its own fragility and its own strength in equal measure. It is a self that has looked into the abyss and has learned not to conquer it, but to coexist with it. The abyss is always there, a part of the landscape, but you learn that you can build your home on the edge of it and still grow a garden. So if you are there again, and you will be, because life is a cycle of contractions and expansions. If you are there again, tired beyond measure, uncertain of everything, afraid of your own shadow, just remember the floor. Remember the cool hardwood against your cheek. Remember the dust motes dancing in the light. Remember that you have been there before. You have felt this weight. You have stared at this ceiling. And you have always found a way to stand up. Maybe you crawled first. Maybe you used the bedpost to pull yourself up, your muscles screaming in protest. Maybe you stood up and immediately had to sit down again. But you moved. You changed your position in the universe. However infinitesimally, you shifted. And that shift was enough. It is always enough. You are going to figure it out. Not all of it. Not the grand mystery of existence, but the next step, the next breath, the next small, necessary action. You are going to figure out how to make the tea, how to send the email, how to apologize, how to forgive yourself. You will figure it out because you have a history of figuring it out. Your entire life is a testament to your ability to navigate the impossible. Look back, not at the highlights, not at the victories, but at the quiet, desperate moments in between. The moments no one saw. The moments you thought would break you. You are here now, reading these words, because you navigated every single one of those moments. You refused to stop walking. This is not a promise of a pain-free future. That is a fairy tale. The clouds will gather again. The storms will come. But you are no longer the person who is terrified of the rain. You have learned how to build a shelter. You have learned that you are the shelter. The strength you seek is not out there, in a book, in a person, in a pill. It is in the quiet, determined rhythm of your own heart. It is in the breath that you draw, even when it feels like you are breathing glass. It is in the hands that keep stitching, the feet that keep walking, the spirit that keeps whispering, "Not like this. Not yet." That whisper is the most powerful force in the universe. It is the defiance of life in the face of entropy. It is the universe becoming conscious of itself within you and choosing to continue. So today, if the weight feels too heavy, just do this. Acknowledge the weight. Feel its texture, its density. Do not try to push it away. That only gives it more power. Instead, invite it in. Sit with it. Say, "I see you. You are heavy. You are real. And you are not stronger than me." Then, take one small action. Make the bed. Water a plant. Write one sentence. Do not think about the mountain you have to climb. Think about the pebble you can move from your path right now. That one small action is a signal to your soul. It is a message sent through the fog. It says, "I'm still here. I am still in the game." And your soul will answer. It always does. It may answer with a memory of a time you were strong. It may answer with a sudden, unexpected moment of beauty. A bird outside the window, a piece of music that finds its way to you. It may answer with nothing more than the energy to take the next small step. But it will answer. Trust that it will answer. You have built a life out of answered prayers you never even knew you sent. You have survived 100 crises you were sure would be your end. You are a library of resilience, a living archive of every time you thought you were done, and you weren't. So turn the page. The next chapter is waiting, and you are the only one who can write it. Just keep walking.